Hey everybody, welcome back to Capture the Passion. I'm Alex DeJean, and with me is Eric Sabirio and Alia Medrano. Alia, do you mind introducing yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi everyone, my name is Alia Medrano. I am the Student Success Coach here for the CTPT and Education under Rio Hondo College. I also am a Student Ambassador for the College of Education at Cal State Long Beach.
Great, thank you so much for being here. So, earlier we were talking about really bad and really good teachers. So I wanted to sort of ask you the same thing. What is a really bad or good teacher that you remember?
Yeah, so I grew up coming from English language learner, and so that itself is just like, oh, okay, well, your English isn't good, and all that. So I was automatically stereotyped into. But one thing about I came from like Puerto Rico where we do speak English.
Oh,
So there goes that stereotype right away where I was just like, no, I speak it. I'm just not as fast. In my head, it was such a hard time that I had to literally process Spanish to English. And it took a while, so it took me a while to like answer or anything else like that. But there goes that pressure of being like in fourth grade where it's just like, well, they want the answer fast.
yeah.
And even though it's like, it's not like some of the teachers fast of what, and it goes into like what definition is what is a teacher fast and all. But growing up too, I wasn't the best at math too, so I was also like, oh, I was told by my high school teacher, he's like, well, you're not going to accomplish anything.
What?
He was so stereotyping. He goes like, you're probably going to end up in welfare and
What?
have multiple children and all. I've been there, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is a teacher telling me this.
That is crazy.
So it took me I kind of took it serious. At the same time, I'm just like, well, I'm still trying to figure out life itself.
Yeah. No, but I think it's really interesting on how you talk about that, because the previous person we had also had similar experiences of a teacher at such a fundamentally young level being told things that were just really scarring and just gives really bad experiences. It's really messed up, like, to hear what you've gone through. And your whole thing about the fact that English is a second or third language for you, have you ever seen the show Modern Family?
I have seen somewhat bit because I feel like Sofia Vergara.
Yes.
I can kind of relate to her because she had that accent. We live in Los Angeles, where it's one of the most diversity, but we have the population of minorities. It doesn't matter like where they're from. Some people have this accent, and I love that she just made something of it and
Yes.
all. And she's gorgeous, she's natural, and she's so funny too. But no matter what, she sticks to the roots with her accent,
Yeah.
and I love it.
And it reminds me, because what you're talking about reminds me, there's one scene in that show where she goes, do you have any idea how smart I am? Like, and how slow I have to go because I have to translate everything? I'm so much smarter than you, or something like that. And it's really like, it goes to show on how people's intelligence and how people express themselves, and how people are not really given opportunities to excel because of the situation that they're in.
Right, and also when it comes to knowing a different language, for example, my Spanish, I have to think about, is it male or female? That includes when I'm talking in Arabic too. When I think of Arabic, I have to break it down, male or female. So I have to, in my head, there's this longer process. The window when you're waiting, that's the circle. It's like, okay, you're back to 404.
So, you've had really bad experiences, and it's so crazy that the other guest that we had a very similar one. What about good experiences? Because you're here at Rio Hondo College, you're part of the CPTP program, you're also at Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach to become a teacher. What made you want to be a teacher?
I wanted to be a teacher because, don't get me wrong, I did have some good ones. My best one actually were my coach athletes because I was a top player in my sports and all.
Ooh, yeah.
But one of the things is that I actually met someone who was a teacher, and she was like, oh, I need help with translating and all. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. And she worked for LAUSD. And she worked in the city of Carson and all. And she's like, oh, can you help me out just translating? And I went into her transitional kindergarten class. And, transitional kindergarten kids, I was like, oh my God, they're super cute. So I just started, I did parent conferences for her where I was translating. And that's where I kind of felt like I belonged there more. being in that classroom, being around the kids, being silly with them. You know, like as adults, you know, everything's like so serious and this and that. But when you have like, when you're around kids, you're just like, I know, let's laugh. So that's what really got me going. But growing up, I knew I wasn't good at math. So I never thought going to college was a choice for me because I knew I couldn't pass those math classes. You know, we have from like geometry and stats. I was just like, oh my God, I could barely pass algebra. So those classes seem very impossible. Yeah. So what I decided to do was I actually went to UCLA Extension Program where I actually got my certificate to teach English as a second language.
Oh, sweet.
So what I did with that is that I actually went abroad. I went abroad. I went to the Netherlands and I was also around the Middle East. I had so much fun doing it. Like I really found that's where I really fell more in love with the teaching profession, because even though my experience was always like, you know, the kinder kids, when they finally put me with like the second graders, the third grader, I was like, okay, this is more for me, where I do know I want to work for elementary kids. Yep. And just like, you know, kids are kids no matter where you go around the world. Yeah. And I just I had so much fun. So I came back to the States and I told myself, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. I decided to go to Long Beach City College. Originally there, I started off as child development major, but when I was doing my classes, I'm like, this is not for me. So I remember always going to my counselor, and I was just like, yeah, I'm trying to be an elementary teacher. I get the whole child development, don't get me wrong. I feel like it helped me to become a better mother, a parent, you know, more understanding and the roots of things. So I feel like I'm better at that. But when it came to elementary children, there's just this different aspect from, yes, child development goes into it, but there's also something different. Right. And I couldn't put my fingers on it. So it was like 2018, and my counselor called me. She goes, hey, I know you're close to graduating, but we have this new elementary pathway teacher. It's an AAT.
Sorry, like I'm gasping because like, oh, yeah. This is fantastic. Like it's I really like the energy. Like, man, this is a great story so far. Yeah,
so I exactly felt like that when she personally called me. For a counselor to really call you, you must be like in their head. Oh. So she called you, Megan. Oh, she goes, oh, this new professor, Megan Komplinsky, called. She has a new AAT pathway. She goes, I think this one's for you. She goes, but you're going to be here 2 more years. And those math classes that you're worried about, she goes, tutoring. I cannot emphasize any, like, tutoring. Talk to your professors. They will work with you. And I go like, all right, I changed my major. So I changed my majors, and I was always taking like 6 classes because I was on the mood. I had to go. And then this is kind of like a blessing in disguise type of thing. So when I was taking my math classes to officially transfer to Cal State Long Beach, COVID hit. So instead of being in person, it went to online. Right. And I felt like, I don't know what clicked in my head, but I felt like I was doing better online with math.
Oh yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, because I remember when I was in college, my class was, the math teacher would, in a 1.5 hour class, teacher would write maybe an hour of equations. Here's how you do all these equations.
Right.
Any questions? After filling a chalkboard just with nothing but like equations and inequalities. Okay, cool. No questions. Okay, everybody go do this now. Yeah. So I feel that with you, it's really lucky that you're able to maybe transition to an online setting so you have more time to work on things.
Yeah, I felt like, so the number one thing that caused my anxiety when I was a child was elementary teachers used to give you those math facts pages. You have 5 minutes to do 20 questions, okay? And I'm just like, what? Not even 20 minutes. What are we talking about? It was more like 5 minutes, to be honest. You have 5 minutes. It's just like, oh my God, my fingers. Count on me.
And then you spend that first minute going like, like you're freaking out, and then you start feeling things you don't notice.
Normally, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sweating from my armpits or something. Where's this new? And like, it's like my head just literally felt like it was exploding when I saw these things. And I think that was like where the whole root of the cause of anxiety came from. Not just that too, is that like when I came to LA and all, like I was still, for some reason the numbers were in Spanish. I'm like, 1, 2, 2. I'm like, oh, be faster, brain.
But you talked about how sort of you were really lucky, and I'm glad that you were able to have found the silver lining with COVID, with what how many things other people have to go through. What's your experience been like in terms of your education now that everything has shifted to sort of an online remote setting?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, at first it was, oh God, at first I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do all the time? Because I have this son who was just starting preschool, getting him to a setting. How am I going to figure out, how am I going to figure out this like small apartment and get 2 desks in here and just figuring out time management, this and that. How am I going to do, my son can get needy sometimes where I'm just like, okay, I have to explain to him, Mama's in class. I am sitting here. That's your desk. I had to like help him out with what is Zoom, how to mute, what is thumbs up. My son still does thumbs up in class because that's what it's like. He got programmed. And I'm like, God, I do the same thing too. Like we got programmed into this shift. And but one thing I really liked about it is that I felt like the professors really at Cal State Long Beach, at least I can say, like even I was still at LBCC actually, and I felt like the professors really like did like this shift change where they were so much more understanding. And I really feel like, okay, because the ones that are parents and all, I feel like we're all at home. Yeah. You know how it feels. I had this one professor who was like, okay, my kids go to sleep by 9. You're at 9? Okay, 9 p.m. And I'm thinking like, so, all those little things have really helped me accomplish, and especially when it came to my math. I cannot tell you how many times I probably saw my professor, Kimberly Winberg, at Cal State Long Beach. She was like, I'm a parent too, but I have 3. You have 1. Let's do this.
That's great that you have such a great support system and that you have teachers and faculty who can not only understand what you're going through, but they also empathize with it and they're willing to help you out and really form a community.
Yeah, so it's funny because all that kind of led me here to like Rio Hondo. So I was working with Megan Komplinsky at LBCC. She was also, she adapted this mentorship program over there. So the mentorship program, I did it, and Megan Komplinsky, who's now the chair of education and the reading department at LBCC, I got to know her like, I'm like, girl, we're like stuck together at this point. And because I became so close through her, through the mentorship program, and besides having her a professor, I was just like, I want to do anything for you too. And then that led me actually to doing a student panel for the Teach for LA.
Oh.
So I didn't make the first meeting because I was having like issues and all that, but like I finally reached, I actually got an email from Leah, and she goes, okay, we're going to talk, and these are the questions. So all that led me to just a mentorship program that my professor adapted from Rio Hondo, led me back to Rio Hondo.
What? The circle, it all goes around. That's what a community is.
Exactly. And also, so I met with Leah, and we did this this student panel type of thing from, all the community colleges kind of had someone there, and I guess I'm so happy that I stand out to Leah. And then we just kind of got talking and all that, and she was like, yeah, she goes, you're very knowledgeable of things and all, and the number one thing is I tell Leah, I go, because that was my journey too. So I know how it feels like to be that older community college student, that struggling student, that one that's bad at math. So I feel for them. And also, and luckily I developed a great relationship with Leah where I'm here being the student success coach.
Yeah, that's
and
fantastic.
So it's just it's been an amazing journey, I gotta say. Meeting all these great people, and like I tell students all the time, like, you'll never know what you can get out of these mentors. My mentor led me to this amazing job.
That is true. That is amazing. So then let me ask you this, and I think it's really fantastic because I think opposite with me, I also went to community college. I didn't like it. I personally, and I've said this earlier, I don't really like education in general. But it took one class for me to realize how amazing education and teaching can be. And thanks to that one teacher, I joined a teacher preparation program at Pasadena City College, my alma mater. Then I was able to go to Cal State Lake, get my bachelor's and master's. Now I'm teaching. But for you, as a student who was most recently came from a community college and also is currently in college right now, what do you think is the one thing teachers need to have in order to really connect with their students, to really make a difference?
I really think that one, I think, go back. I think it's like for some professors and this and that, like, because they need to kind of go back and think about like what was their struggling point when they were in college.
Right.
And I'll kind of remember and kind of, empathize with the students and all that. I get it. So we have, in the end, we are adults where things shift, where we have responsibilities. We have to start growing, getting jobs, learning how to drive, these little things that I think, professors should kind of take a step back and try to remember, like, because, for example, I have a professor who's just like, well, you're late to class, lock the door, you're late, you're absent. And it's just like, we get late for a reason in LA. Yeah. There's always a reason, especially when you have those like late classes. And I was one of those students. And it's just like, if there's a way that people need to remember, like, yes. Okay, and you don't know the full student's life situations. Reality is, and that's the reality that I always remember when I'm talking to students, when I'm talking to the mentors and this and that. I don't know your socioeconomic background. I don't know if you're safe at home. I don't, during the COVID times, people were saying like, I don't hate this topic, but reality is like child abuse, which is something very dear to me because I hate that topic passionately, and it's something that like I was hearing the numbers go up and this and that, and it's just like, parents don't know how to deal with their kids 24/7, and they got used to them going to school and where the teachers do the jobs. And even some of the teachers, like the elementary teachers, they're always with their students all the time, minus recess, lunch. Yeah. And so even them, they have to learn how to handle like the 28 students that they have, the 38 students that they have. But then, and then those, dealing with those kids, the teacher also has to take in consideration of, well, I also don't know their home life neither.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think like when it comes to like the professors, the teachers, we have to be really thinking about what made the student be going through. Why is this kid mad? Maybe they didn't have breakfast and that's why they're mad.
Yeah, that's true.
And I knew I was one of those kids. Sometimes if I didn't go to school, like I'm missing lunch.
Yeah, same here. Right? Like those benefits from like those social support services that schools provide are so critical.
Right.
We only have a couple minutes left. So I want to take a minute right now to plug the program. Since you are a student success coach here at Rio Hondo and you work with the CPTP, the community teacher, tripping over my words. So do you mind giving us a really quick pitch about why students should join CPTP?
First, I did a mentorship program myself, so it's very similar, very, very, very similar to it. We need, as you're going from high school where everyone's telling you what to do and you're coming into a college, you need guidance. Like I needed a guide. Even though I was an older student, I still needed guidance. I still needed help. I was fortunate enough to have this amazing counselor. But when it comes to being into the whatever field that you go into the teaching, I feel like you need guidance. It's so complicated. What is this CBES, this CSET, this RICA? What is all this? Why do I have to take all these classes? So I think this mentorship program, it really helps develop a good relationship of like kind of guiding them, because sometimes some of our students still need their hands held.
Yeah.
And we have young students straight from high school and they need their hands held. And I'm so happy I will reach out to you and hold your hand for you, but only for so long. Yeah. Where I have to let you go because in the end, you're going to move on from Rio. The point is to move on to Rio Hondo and go to whatever university or whatever pathway that you decide to go to. So ultimately in the end, having these mentors really will help you. They will guide them. Also, not just that, is also like, I didn't know how much that mentorship program meant to me until also too, which I tell students, that is a recommendation. That is a recommendation. Who will know you more than your mentor?
That's great. I think that is a great final thought to have. Alia, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great having you. It was great hearing your stories. For those of you listening, we're going to end right here. And with Alia's, as she said, make sure if you want to get into education, get into mentorship. You might not be able to change the world, but you can change the world for one person. Hopefully we'll see you next week here at Capture the Passion. Thanks for listening.